Guys, it's Triple here. I am going to be reacting to False White Gaming's history of Bastiodon in competitive. I've been waiting for this video for I don't know, at least 3 years probably would be my best bet. Very excited. It came out 2 days ago and haven't watched it because I wanted to be well enough to make a reaction video. I am very excited. I think my volume's going to be too high for this, so I should turn that down. So yeah, today is going to be Bastiodon Day. 2 or 3 videos. This, the trailer, and maybe a showdown live. I want to try one of those, featuring none other than the boy, Bastiodon. I'm very excited for this video. Let's go. And that's a nice intro. I just love that.
Next up, we have Bastiodon. Originally appearing in Generation 4, its design clearly originates from Game Freak's desire to mash together a dinosaur, a castle wall, and a bulldozer. We say hats off to them for such originality and aplomb. Bastiodon is one of Generation 4's fossil Pokemon. The Shieldon it evolves from comes from the Armor fossil, a Pearl version exclusive in the Sinnoh Underground. Bastiodon and Shieldon of course have parallels to the Diamond version exclusive fossils, Cranidos and Rampardos. This is mirrored beautifully in the game, where the Rock Gym Leader Roark's strongest Pokemon is Cranidos, and then later in the game, his father, Gym Leader Byron, is packing a Bastiodon. It's the little details. There is even a Bastiodon Rampardos showdown in the anime when Byron and Roark battle, though it was interrupted by Team Rocket. Rampardos is, of course, famous for being one of the strongest and one of the worst Pokemon in the game. Did Bastiodon suffer a similar fate? We'll find out as we're asking, how good was Bastiodon actually?
For the absolute god.
And in this video, we'll be going over these competitive formats. If Rampardos' appearance was true to its nature as a head basher, then the same applied to Bastiodon and its nature as a wall. At first glance, Bastiodon seems to have a lot going for it. It possessed the famously defensively apt steel typing, which was backed up by an eye-popping 168 base defense. This leaves Deoxys' defense in the dust. Its special defense was incredible as well, clocking in at base 138, which is higher than Blissey. Its HP wasn't quite so impressive at only base 60, but hey, Deoxys' defense made it work with base 50, so that shouldn't have been a problem. Bastiodon's offenses were non-existent, but that was fine thanks to an excellent support move pool that included, above all, Stealth Rock, as well as Roar and even Taunt.
Time is precious, which is why we created RBC Future Launch at Home, a free virtual platform for young people.
Also was one of the few Pokemon to learn Metal Burst, which meant it could turn its opponent's offenses against it. So surely Bastiodon was a great wall, right? Right? Wrong. Unfortunately, Bastiodon's coveted steel typing was dragged down by its pairing with rock typing. Now, rock is not a bad defensive typing at all, quite the contrary. However, it does not pair well with steel at all. It crippled Bastiodon with quadruple weaknesses to fighting and ground, and if it had been a pure steel type or a pure rock type, it would have been able to use its bulk to withstand most such hits with relative ease. Since it had both, and since fighting moves and earthquakes were so common, then Bastiodon was constantly on the verge of being KO'd, which is more or less unforgivable for a wall, a slow, weak wall at that. Plus, Bastiodon's lack of recovery and low HP meant that it could potentially be overwhelmed by high-power neutral moves too. It didn't have the endless survivability of a Blissey, which didn't need to resist hits to be able to shrug them off. Of course, Bastiodon wasn't completely without defensive merit. With its quadruple resist and huge bulk, it completely and utterly stuffed anything that relied on normal or flying type offense. The problem was that a lot of these Pokemon would come equipped with coverage against Bastiodon, and since it was quadruply effective, something that would bounce off Regirock like a Tauros Earthquake was instead something that mortally terrified Bastiodon. This restricted the common Pokemon that Bastiodon could answer safely to Skuntank, Linoone, and Dodrio, pretty much. It was a shame because Bastiodon could wall Pokemon like Jinx and Gardevoir perfectly until they pulled out Focus Blast, and it went from perfect counter to nothing but another victim. Even a Hunter or Drifblim hidden power fighting or ground down would be too much to handle. Of course, Bastiodon was quite useful against choice variants of these Pokemon, and Tauros, stifling their stabs all day long, but it was always one prediction away from being KO'd, which was a much greater margin of error than most players care for with the walls that are integral parts of their defensive core. Bastiodon was also decent against some neutral special attackers, but that wasn't quite enough, because as if all its flaws weren't sufficiently crippling, Bastiodon also had competition for its role as an NU Steel Rock Wall. If most players were going to use such a Pokemon, they'd choose Probopass, which was similarly flawed, but came with higher special defense that let it more effectively ward off obnoxious special attackers like Manectric and Chlorophyll Sweepers than Bastiodon could. Probopass also came with the incredible utility of Thunder Wave, an actually usable special attack stat, and even a potentially usable ability in Magnet Pull. Probopass had lower defense, but this didn't really make a significant difference. It was still incredibly high, and it was effectively just as good or bad at tanking whatever physical hit as Bastiodon was. The end result was that Bastiodon wasn't outright bad. It was limited, yes, but it could have use. But whatever you want to use Bastiodon for, you probably have better results using Probopass. Metal Burst wasn't really that good, since the attacks that potentially did damage worth Metal Bursting were also usually the ones that threatened to KO Bastiodon. Plus, even if it was a water type move that only hit Bastiodon for regular super effective damage, Metal Burst only returned 1.5 times damage as opposed to the double damage of Counter and Miracle. So the upsides were, most of the time, not worth it. The only thing Bastiodon could genuinely boast over Probopass was Roar, and this wasn't insignificant, as the power of phasing should never be dismissed. But this wasn't nearly enough to cement itself over Probopass in what was already a niche role thanks to the pair's crippling defensive typing. So overall, Bastiodon had a sadly forgettable debut generation. Bastiodon got some nice buffs in Gen 5. Its previously useless sturdy ability now functioned as a built-in focus sash, and it could now brandish a much improved magic coat. The problem? These exact statements also applied to Probopass, who had also received one of the very best moves in the game, Volt Switch. Aside from that, it was the same story as the previous generation. Steel Rock was such an incredibly flawed defensive typing that it usually overshadowed its Pokemon's amazing bulk, and if you were going to use one of the two Steel Rock types in the tier, was going to be Probopass thanks to Volt Switch and that superior special defense stat, which let it shrug off threats like Rotom Frost and Superior with ease. What would you even do with Bastiodon? Roar is nice, but to what end? Sure, you could roar out Calm Mind Duocean or substitute Bulk Up Braviary and then lose to them when it's the last Pokemon and you can't roar it out anymore. Okay, theoretically, Bastiodon in conjunction with a Perish Song user or something could be useful on stall teams to handle these otherwise dangerous threats, but this was so ridiculously specific, not to mention passive and weak, and bowled over by the highly threatening offense around every corner of the NU metagame, that it wasn't seen much. It was a miracle Bastiodon didn't drop to untiered. Its seemingly inexplicable usage could probably be attributed to its status as a fan favorite from those more casual players who remembered it fondly in the previous generation. Or it was a suicide, who knows. Either way, Bastiodon was once again, well, not unusable, but certainly outclassed and definitely not used in serious play.
It's a worse
How cool would it have been to get Mega Bastiodon or Rampardos in Gen 6? Very cool. If starting off on that note didn't give it away, Bastiodon got nothing of note in XY or ORAS. Yeah, there was now a new lowest tier PU, and Bastiodon no longer resisted Dark, but gained the resist to Fairy, which could be useful since many lower tier Fairy types often didn't pack super effective coverage against Steels, but Bastiodon also received nothing to make up for the fact that it was still completely and utterly outclassed by Probopass. This video really could have been called How Outclassed by Probopass Was Bastiodon Actually, because once again, all Bastiodon could do was haplessly offer its capability to roar, and this was of course next to nothing compared to all the utility Probopass had. As such, it should come as no surprise that Bastiodon could drop to the lowest depths a fully evolved Pokemon can, receiving the status of untiered, and the only surprise is that it didn't do so when it first had the opportunity in Generation 5. It would have been nice if, at some point, Probopass had been buffed enough to be lifted out of the same tier as Bastiodon, at least. Then its niche would have been more noticeable. How sad is that, when you're so overlooked by Game Freak that you hope the Pokemon that outclasses you gets buffed? That's messed up. Anyway, Bastiodon received a whopping load of nothing in Generation 7. In fact, it received less than nothing, because it was even more outclassed as a Steel Rock type now that Aggron had joined the ranks of PU. There was absolutely nothing of no Bastiodon could do so, and as such, nobody used it, and it dropped to untiered again. And that's it. So how bad was Bastiodon actually?
No.
Well, sadly for such a cool design, Bastiodon has not been treated well competitive-wise. Its huge bulk is marred, almost made worthless by virtue of receiving one of the worst defensive typings in the game. And if that hasn't been bad enough, it also shared a tier with Probopass for every generation of its existence, meaning it's both not good and outclassed. What a horrible combination. Bastiodon deserves better, justice for the Gen 4 fossils, and chalk up another example for the Rampardos theorem, except it has absurdly high defense and is still so astronomically bad. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to Full Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content, and in the comments, I want to know, what do you think about competitive Bastiodon? How would you buff it? If you ask me, I would just take away one of its dual typings. Whatever it is, let me know in the comments. Also, thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well.
Man, that's sad. I wish it were not awful. I mean, I've used it, and I'm going to use it more. I hope it makes it into Scarlet and Violet, because then I'll use it to, I don't fucking know, troll Sprigatito third form, which will be in the lower tiers, probably. Actually, no, apparently it's it's getting like fucking Libero or some shit. I don't fucking know. It was actually briefly viable in, like, they don't go over other tiers and shit, but I believe it was briefly viable in BDSP, which is the Brilliant and Diamond and Shining Pearl, because Venomoth was really overpowered there, and Soundproof Bastiodon is immune to all of Venomoth's stabs. So it literally just infinitely sits on it. But, like, I feel like that's the most viability, and I think that lasted, like, a week before Venomoth got banned. I don't know, I kind of played that tier for, like, a day. I haven't been super into Pokemon for, like, the past almost year. Played the odd game here and there. I really like Gen 5 RU. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll join the RU room and try to get, like, a tour going. Because I played RU for like a good year and a half before I kind of lost interest. And I'm known of. I think I have some replays that I might include in the description of this video. Thank you for watching. If only Bastiodon were good.